The news hit like a thunderclap. Walmart, the titan of American retail, was leaving the United States. The very idea seemed preposterous. An institution woven into the fabric of American life. Gone. The announcement, delivered on a grim Tuesday morning, sent shivers down Wall Street. It echoed through every main street. Disbelief was the first reaction, then a creeping dread. What did this mean for America, for its shoppers, for its economy? This was not a phased withdrawal, not a strategic downsizing. It was a full stop, an exodus. Walmart's iconic blue and yellow signs would soon be relics. Its sprawling supercenters, modern cathedrals of commerce slated for closure. The company cited an untenable operating environment. Polite words for a brutal economic reality. The decision, they claimed, was agonizing, but ultimately unavoidable. A shocking admission from a corporate behemoth. A behemoth that once seemed invincible, now bowing out of its homeland. The statement from CEO Doug McMillon was terse. He spoke of insurmountable pressures. He hinted at policies that choked the life from their business model. The low-price promise, Walmart's very soul, had become impossible to keep. Not in America, not anymore. The subtext was clear. The tariff crisis had claimed its biggest victim yet, a giant felled not by competition, but by economic warfare. The tariffs. It always came back to the tariffs. These weren't just minor taxes on a few select goods. This was a full-blown trade siege, a relentless barrage of import duties. They squeezed margins, they inflated costs. For a company like Walmart, built on volume and razor-thin profits, it was a death knell. Its global supply chain, once a source of immense strength, became an albatross. Every container ship arriving at port carried not just goods, but a heavy cargo of added expense, an expense too immense to absorb. Walmart had tried. Lord, how it had tried. It negotiated with suppliers, it rerouted logistics, it even explored more domestic production, but the scale was too vast, the tariffs too pervasive. The company's leadership had warned repeatedly that these policies were unsustainable. They spoke of price hikes, they hinted at disruptions. Few, however, imagined this, an outright surrender. The tariffs were meant to protect American industry. Instead, they were dismantling one of its pillars, a tragic, ironic twist. The decision to exit, though shocking, was perhaps the only rational one left. A painful acknowledgement that the American dream of always low prices had been priced out of existence by its own government's policies. The news rippled outward from financial centers. It hit small towns the hardest, places where Walmart wasn't just a store, it was store, the main employer, the source of affordable groceries, the community hub. Suddenly, that lifeline was being severed. In countless towns across America, the local Walmart was the economic engine. Its closure meant more than lost convenience. It meant lost jobs, lost tax revenue, lost hope, a gaping wound in the heart of the community. Consider a town like Bentonville, Arkansas, Walmart's birthplace, its spiritual home. The shock there was palpable, deeply personal, but the pain was replicated nationwide. In rural communities, Walmart often pushed out smaller local businesses. Now its own departure left an even bigger void, one that smaller businesses, long since vanished, could not easily fill. The promise of jobs and low prices had come at a cost. Now the bill for that dependency was coming due, and it was devastatingly high. The immediate impact was job losses, hundreds of thousands of them, cashiers, stockers, pharmacists, managers. These weren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they were families facing sudden uncertainty. Mortgage payments, grocery bills, college funds. The public reaction was a maelstrom. Anger, fear, confusion. Social media erupted. #Walmart exit trended for days. Many blamed the government's tariff policies. They saw Walmart as a canary in the coal mine, a stark warning of economic folly. Others blamed Walmart itself. Accusations of corporate greed, of abandoning the country that made it rich. The debate raged, fierce and divisive. But beneath the anger was a pervasive sense of anxiety. If Walmart could fall, what was safe? Competitors were caught off guard, stunned. Some saw opportunity, a chance to grab market share. Target, Costco, Kroger. Their stocks saw a brief, nervous uptick, but the elation was short-lived. They too relied on global supply chains. They too faced the same tariff pressures. Walmart's exit wasn't a competitive victory. It was a chilling omen. If the largest player couldn't make it work, what chance did they have in the long run? The scramble was on, not just for customers, but for survival strategies. Suppliers faced an immediate crisis. Thousands of businesses, big and small, depended on Walmart's orders. Their revenue streams vanished overnight. Factories would idle, layoffs would follow. The intricate web of commerce that Walmart commanded was unraveling. The departure of Walmart was not merely a retail event, it was an economic cataclysm. Its absence carved a massive hole in the gross domestic product. Consumer spending faced an immediate hit. Families tightened their belts. Ripples affected manufacturing, logistics, and services. Unemployment figures skyrocketed. Over 1.5 million faced joblessness. Indirect job losses could double or triple. Social safety nets strained. Consumer confidence reduced. Economic recovery dragged for years. The ghost of Walmart haunted the labor market. The impact on inflation was grave. Walmart had been a deflationary force. Its pressure kept prices low. Competitors faced less pressure to keep prices down. Rising consumer costs created a perfect storm. Everyday necessities became more expensive. Low-income families were disproportionately hurt. Walmart's decision to exit the US market was not made lightly. It was the culmination of months, perhaps years, of agonizing internal debate. Executives crunched numbers, they ran simulations, they explored every conceivable alternative. The picture that emerged was bleak. The tariffs were not a temporary storm to be weathered. They represented a fundamental, structural shift in the cost of doing business. A shift that rendered Walmart's high-volume, low-margin model unviable in its home country. The company had considered radical transformations. Could it become a smaller, more niche player, focusing only on groceries, perhaps, or becoming an entirely online entity? But these options meant abandoning its core identity. It meant surrendering its scale, its primary competitive advantage. It also meant ceding vast swathes of the market to competitors who were themselves struggling. The math simply didn't add up. The risks of a partial retreat were deemed almost as high as a full one, but with less certainty of survival. The final calculation was brutal. The cost of staying was greater than the cost of leaving. The American market, once its golden goose, had become a quagmire. The company would focus its resources elsewhere. The physical reminders of Walmart's departure would soon litter the American landscape. Vast, empty supercenters, acres of deserted parking lots. These weren't just buildings, they were monuments to a bygone era of retail. Their emptiness would serve as a constant visual reminder of the economic shock. What would become of these behemoth structures? Some might be repurposed. Warehouses, perhaps? Community centers, maybe, but many would likely stand vacant for years. Silent witnesses to the tariff crisis. The scars on communities would be deep and slow to heal. Beyond the immediate job losses, there was the erosion of the local tax base. Schools, police forces, public services all faced cuts. Property values in areas heavily reliant on Walmart could plummet. The sense of community, already frayed in many parts of America, would suffer further. The food desert phenomenon, where access to fresh, affordable groceries is limited, would undoubtedly worsen, impacting public health in vulnerable neighborhoods. Supply chains, meticulously built over decades, were now fractured. The intricate network connecting manufacturers, distributors, and ultimately consumers had a gaping hole. Other retailers would try to pick up the slack, but Walmart's sheer volume was irreplaceable in the short term. This disruption would cause further inefficiencies. America without Walmart. The thought alone was a paradigm shift. What would fill the void? Would competitors like Target and Costco expand? Could they absorb the demand, or would smaller, agile retailers emerge? A renaissance for local businesses. Main Street shops might find renewed opportunity. If they could navigate the economic climate, this would require significant investment and a shift in consumer behavior, a difficult transition but hopeful. However, a darker scenario loomed. Increased market concentration, potentially higher prices. The tariff crisis would continue. Less affordability, greater hardship for families. The path to ruin was a distinct possibility.